Dear audience, Assalamu alaikum and a very beautiful afternoon. Next Generation Professional Development and Solutions, as the name suggests, works to offer solutions in the domain of academic and professional development in corporate sector as well. NGPDS advocates spreading the vibes of awareness and responsibility. This webinar series is dedicated to professional development and solutions in the learning context of Pakistan. Through our today's discussion, we highlight the issues related to education, protection, and support for orphans and vulnerable children in Pakistan. Dear audience, regarding the title of the webinar, I would like to mention here that by orphan, we mean paternally orphaned, maternally orphaned, and double orphaned children. And by vulnerable children, we mean street children, child laborers, neglected, destitute, displaced, abandoned, and orphan children. दूसरे अल्फाज में vulnerability से हमारी मुराद तहफ़्फ़ुज़ की अदम मौजूदगी है। इसका मतलब ये भी है कि ऐसे बच्चों के लिए ऐसे माहौल में होना जिसमें उनको नुकसान पहुंचने के मौके आसानी से मुयस्सर हो रहे हैं। Vulnerability is determined by the life circumstances of each individual child. Reasons behind vulnerability may be many, including broken families, ill treatment by parents, step-parents, relatives, and guardians. It is important to understand that while all orphan children are vulnerable, not all vulnerable children are orphans. Due to the absence of parental care and support, these children remain deprived of the child rights of education, health, nutrition, and protection, to highlight just a few. Studies confirm that a child who has access to quality primary education has usually better chances to grow in life. The Constitution of Pakistan and the Convention on the Rights of the Child both recognize education as the basic right of a child. In Pakistan, we lack the statistics on the orphans and vulnerable children and orphanages. So what we know from different reports is that Pakistan has approximately 4.6 million children who are orphans, and thousands more such children are not even registered. According to a UN survey, majority of these children are under the age of 17. And according to the same study, in 2017, there were 35 shelter homes or orphanages, which were either owned by the state or privately managed, and they had accommodated 3,500 orphans and other vulnerable children. To have expert opinion on education, protection, and support for orphans and vulnerable children in Pakistan, we have today on our panel Air Marshal Farooq Habib, Hilal-e-Imtiyaz military. He served Pakistan Air Force as a Vice Chief of Air Staff, and since his retirement, has been rendering his services as National Director of Aghosh program. Aghosh homes are providing excellent lodging, education, and healthcare facilities to orphans in 18 Aghosh homes across Pakistan. Next on our panel, we have Ms. Farzana Naeem. She is principal at the Girls Campus of Pakistan Sweet Home, Islamabad. Pakistan Sweet Home was established in 2016 as an orphanage for underprivileged orphans, but has now turned into a family of more than 1,000 children and is expanding its services. So without further delay, I would request Air Marshal Farooq Habib to share with us the challenges regarding the quality of education of orphans and vulnerable children with reference to where he has been rendering the services and based on his own observation.
Thank you very much. Actually, it's a very sore point for me. I have been associated with Aghosh for about 2 years now, and the quality of education remains perhaps one point which I've been pursuing throughout. There are a number of challenges. The first challenge, as you're quite aware, is a challenge which is common not only to the orphans, but it is also common to the normal children of Pakistan who cannot afford good schooling. The standard of our schools, which are affordable for the low-income family children, is not good really. And most of the orphans belong to that strata where they cannot afford good schools. Their families cannot afford good school. Even the orphanages which are sponsoring them cannot possibly send them to school which charge very high fees. So number one, the standard of the schools that they go in, that is the first challenge. Secondly, the teachers are also not really qualified to impart the normal education I'm talking about. I'm not yet talking about the orphans. For the purpose of orphans, of course, there are certain guidelines which the teachers have to follow. And especially in these schools where these often undergo education, I'm not too sure that these these teachers are actually aware of those responsibilities or those requirements which have to be fulfilled in order to teach an orphan. There are certain, psychosocial issues, problems, traumas related to these orphans, and you have to take special care of those. Now, one of the solution probably is to have for the orphanages, which are actually sponsoring the schools, sponsoring the orphans, to have their own schools. At Al Khidmat, we have 3 or 4 centers where we have our own schools. There, of course, we have more control over the teachers, over the kind of education that you're imparting. But then again, there is a limit to that control. But this is a good model if you can have your own school in the orphanage, within the premises or outside, but where you can have a direct access to it, direct control over that school. In case you cannot, because most of the orphanages do not have their own schools, a good option would be to be able to have good coordination between the staff, the caregivers at the orphanages, and the teachers over there. The better the coordination is, probably the better would be the foundation of the children as far as the education is concerned. So these are few of the factors. Secondly, especially in case of the orphans, unlike the normal children where the parents are there to go and talk to the teachers, have regular parent-teachers meeting, even without that scheduled parent-teachers meeting, you can go and always talk about the difficulties that your child is facing. Here in orphanages, you don't have that kind of facility. Yes, the caregivers are there, the administration is there, you have mentors, you have wardens, but probably that kind of enthusiasm is missing. So unless, I know for myself, you have to keep pushing the caregivers, and subsequently, at some places, you still are not really satisfied with the kind of coordination between the staff and the faculty of the school. But the more coordination there is, of course, the better would be the result as far as the education is concerned. So this is what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Farooq Saab, for sharing your views on it. And we understand that enthusiasm of the staff and their willingness to work with these children with very unique challenges is very important. And they must be trained and they must have that aptitude as well. I believe that our audience would like to know that all these initiatives which are taken, like at orphanages that you shared, what is the sustainability of such educational services? How and what is required to sustain these efforts? Are we missing on some? We'd like to know in detail.
Yeah, I think the main thing which can sustain this education and which can actually help to increase the share of this activity is basically the funds that you have available. Now, where at Al Khidmat, Alhamdulillah, funds are not an issue. Even in the very, the peak days of pandemic, when it was not possible actually to do a campaign for donation, the people had full faith in Al Khidmat, and people used to come themselves or donate online, etc. But Pakistan is, Pakistanis are a philanthropic nation. There is no dearth of donors in our country, only if they know that actually the organization which is sponsoring these people, or any welfare project for that matter, is honest, they are open, they are transparent. So I think there is no issue on that. So when you have the donation available with you, the sustainment of education or any such activity is not an issue. The only thing is that you have to train your staff to be able to use that kind of fund most judiciously and in a way that you achieve your optimum results. That is what I wanted to say. And subsequently, as the children grow and they finish their schooling, go to the colleges, then of course there are different various programs available with Al Khidmat or any other sponsored organization, if it is big enough, where that child can be linked and subsequently he can pursue his higher education.
Thank you very much. So, Marshal Farooq Habib sir, ICC related, another thing which is coming to my mind is in fact study. a Stanford Social Innovation Review published a study in which they said that Pakistan has a strong social safety net due to the Islamic culture of charitable giving. और जो आपने भी बात की कि हमारे लोग जो हैं वो डोनेट तो करते हैं, सारा कुछ है, और according to this report, the charitable giving of the people contributes more than 1% of our GDP. And this is the charity which may be very conveniently compared with the wealthier countries like UK, where it is the charity is equal to 1.3% of their GDP. And we can compare it with Canada, where the charity is equal to 1.2% of their GDP. And it is almost double what India gives as a charity. Other than the charitable givings, when we look at giving as charity one's own expertise and time, like you yourself are doing that, and there are so many other people who are devoting their time and expertise, do you think that we need to create that awareness among our people to donate with their time and expertise as well at such organizations?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. It is one place probably where we are lacking actually. While we are a very charity giving nation, very philanthropic in our attitude, but probably we do not have a culture of social service or volunteerism. Again, as far as the Al Khidmat is concerned, we are lucky. We have got about 18,000 volunteers, and I mean, I was just attending 2 weeks back a General Council meeting where we have a very robust program. They were talking about implementing of even, I mean, further robust program to increase this volunteerism, which is already 18,000 is a high figure for any purpose. And even then, with this kind of volunteerism, when there is some calamity or some accident, we tend to have more volunteers. But overall, this spirit of volunteerism or social service is missing. It is not there in our curriculum. In some of the countries abroad, you already know that this is a part and parcel of their university or the college curriculum, that you have to spend some time in social service. And subsequently, the retired people also outside, there is a culture of spending some of their time for the social services. Not so in Pakistan. There is a need to make this kind of awareness amongst the people and the young people and the old ones also, to use this spare time which they have towards social care.
So, thank you very much, Air Marshal Farouk Habib साहब. और यहाँ पे मैं चाहूँगी कि मैं फरजाना नईम साहिबा को भी इन्वॉल्व करूँ इस डिस्कशन में. मिस फरजाना, आप हमें बताइए कि बच्चों को एजुकेट करने में, जो हम बच्चों की बात कर रहे हैं, वल्नरेबल और ऑर्फन बच्चों को एजुकेट करने के सिलसिले में हमारे मुआशरे का क्या किरदार है? अब हम पाकिस्तान स्वीट होम के लिहाज से देख रहे हैं कि आपके एक्सपीरियंस में क्या है, और इस किरदार में मजीद कोई बेहतरी लाई जा सकती है तो वो किस तरह से?
जी बिल्कुल, इस टाइम ज़रूरत है इस चीज़ की कि हम ये जाने कि हमें कहाँ पे इन बच्चों को किस तरीके से, सबसे पहली चीज़ तो ये कि इन बच्चों को सेफ कैसे करना है. नंबर 2 ये है कि हमने इनकी फीलिंग्स को हर्ट किए बगैर किस तरह इनको एक नॉर्मल लाइफ में लेकर आना है. तो पाकिस्तान स्वीट होम भी जो है इसी सिलसिले में अपनी जो वर्किंग है ये कर रहा है, और हमारी कोशिश ये होती है कि हम इन बच्चों को एक नॉर्मल लाइफ दें. लिहाजा यही वजह है कि हम पाकिस्तान स्वीट होम को ऑर्फनेज नहीं कहते, बल्कि हम इसे स्वीट होम कहते हैं. और ये हमारी सोसाइटी का एक, मैं जो दूसरे शहरों पे भी, बल्कि गांव के लेवल पे भी जाके काम किया है, उसमें ये होता है कि हमारी सोसाइटी में ये अवेयरनेस नहीं है कि यतीम को यतीम कह के धुतकारा ना जाए. मोस्टली यही होता है कि हम यतीम बच्चे को साइड पे कर देते हैं, जिसकी उसकी फीलिंग्स हर्ट होती है. फिर ये होता है कि हमारी सोसाइटी में कहीं ये चीज नहीं है कि अगर हम अपने एक बच्चे या 2 बच्चों को पढ़ा रहे हैं तो अपने साथ एक इर्द गिर्द के अराउंड के किसी एक यतीम बच्चे के सर पर भी हाथ रख दें. बेशक बहुत से लोग आपको जो है देते हैं, डोनेशंस देते हैं, सब कुछ देते हैं, लेकिन हमारी सोसाइटी अभी तक इस साइड पे नहीं आई कि प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ में हम उन बच्चों को इमोशनली किस तरह अपने साथ लेकर चलें कि वो सोसाइटी में एक पॉजिटिव रोल प्ले कर सकें. तो इस चीज की बड़ी सख्त जरूरत है कि हम अपने जो शहरों में छोटी छोटी सोसाइटीज, अगर हम हर सोसाइटी में एक ऐसा ग्रुप बना लें जो इन चीजों पे वर्किंग करें. जैसे कि सर ने भी कहा कि जो हमारे रिटायर्ड लोग हैं, अगर हम उनको आगे ले आए اور اس طرح اپنے کچھ اس طرح کی کمیٹیاں بنا لیں, کچھ گروپس بنا لیں جو صرف ان بچوں کو سیو کریں. کیونکہ ایک ریٹائرڈ پرسن اگر کسی ایک بچے کے سر پہ ہاتھ رکھتا ہے تو میں نے یہ فیل کیا ہے کہ بچہ اپنے آپ کو سیف سمجھنے لگتا ہے, اور یہ سیفٹی بچے کے لیے بہت ضروری ہے اس کی پرسنالٹی کے اندر ایک پلس پوائنٹ لانے کے لیے. تو اگر ہم سارے مل کے اس چیز پہ کام کریں کہ سب سے پہلے ہم نے اپنے اراؤنڈ میں ایسے آرفنس, اور اس کے ساتھ سے جس طرح آپ نے بات کی ہے جو چیز زیادہ اگنور بچے ہیں, دیکھیں یتیم کے ہاتھ پہ ہم لوگ سر پہ ہاتھ ضرور رکھتے ہیں, لیکن ہم نے دیکھا ہے کہ بہت سے ایسے بچے جن کے پیرنٹس میں سپریشن ہونے کے بعد دونوں میاں بیوی شادی کر کے چلے جاتے ہیں اور بچہ نانی یا دادی دادا کے حوالے کرتے ہیں جو افورڈ ہی نہیں کر سکتے ان بچوں کو رکھنا. میں رورل ایریاز کے ان جگہوں کی بات کر رہی ہوں جہاں بے شمار ایسے بچے جو ہیں اس ٹائم سفر کر رہے ہیں صرف کس وجہ سے کہ ماں باپ کی سپریشن کے بعد وہ جو ہے تنہا رہ گئے ہیں اور سوسائٹی ان کو ایکسیپٹ نہیں کرتی ہے. اس سوسائٹی میں وہ جب باہر نکلتے ہیں تو لوگ ان کو دیکھ کے بات کرتے ہیں, کیونکہ میرے پاس بھلوال کے ہمارے کیمپس میں کچھ بچے ہمارے پاس ایسے ہیں جن کے سپریشن والے بچے ہیں جن کے ماں باپ جا چکے ہیں, پر وہ کیوں ہرٹ ہوتے ہیں کہ وہ آ کے بتاتے ہیں کہ جب ہم باہر نکلتے ہیں تو لوگ ہم پر ہنستے ہیں کہ جی یہ ان کے ماں باپ دونوں جا چکے ہیں, اور وہ اس چیز کو چھپانے کی کوشش کرتے ہیں جس میں وہ یہ کہتے ہیں کہ دونوں فوت ہو چکے ہیں. تو یہ چیزیں بچے کی پرسنالٹی پہ بہت افیکٹ ڈالتی ہیں, اور پھر یہ ہوتا ہے کہ ایسے بچے بہت جلدی مس گائیڈ ہو جاتے ہیں. ہمیں ضرورت ہے کہ آرفنس کے ساتھ ساتھ ہم ایسے بچوں کو بھی جو ہے کور کریں, ان کے لیے بھی کچھ اس طریقے سے سوچیں کہ یہ بچے بھی اتنے ہی سیف ہوں جتنا ہم ایک یتیم کے سر پہ ہاتھ رکھ کے جو نیکی کماتے ہیں تو ہم ان کے سروں پہ بھی ہاتھ رکھیں, ان کو بھی سیو کریں. ان کے ایجوکیشن کے لیے ڈونیشن دینا ایک الگ بات ہے, لیکن اگر ہم انہیں ایجوکیٹ کریں, ان کو گروم کریں تو نو ڈاؤٹ کہ ہم بہت سارے مسائل سے ان فیوچر باہر نکل آئیں گے.
بالکل ٹھیک آپ نے فرمایا مس فرزانہ نعیم کہ ہمارے یہ جو بچے ہیں آرفنس کا تو ریلیجسلی بھی کچھ لوگوں کو اویئرنیس ہے, اینڈ پیپل نو دیٹ قرآن پاک ٹاکس اباؤٹ دی آرفنس دیٹ یو نیڈ ٹو ٹیک کیئر آف دی آرفن, اور آپ نے اس کو دھتکارنا نہیں ہے. تو کچھ لوگوں میں یہ ہے, مگر جو ایک اور بڑا سیگمنٹ ہے ہمارا یوتھ کا اور بچوں کا, وہ ہے جو ولنریبل ہیں ڈیو ٹو دیز بروکن میرجز یا کسی بھی اور سوسیو اکنامک deprivation کی وجہ سے, and they are in the position where they can very easily be exploited, and there are so many different ways to exploit them. ان کو ان کی جائیداد میں حصے نہیں ملتے, ان کو گھروں سے نکال دیا جاتا ہے, ان کو کوئی مینٹورنگ ان کو نہیں مل رہی ہوتی, and then at the end definitely they are either misused or abused. ہم نے سسٹینیبلٹی کی اگرچہ بات کی, اس کو ایک سٹیپ اور آگے لے کر میں جاؤں گی کہ ہم امپلائبلٹی سکلز پہ ان بچوں کے کتنا کام کرتے ہیں ہمارے ان اداروں میں, چاہے ہم ان کو آرفنیجز کہیں, چاہے ہم ان کو سویٹ ہومز کہیں, یا ہم ان کو آغوش ہومز کہیں. کیا بچوں کی امپلائبلٹی سکلز پہ بھی ہم کوئی کام کر رہے ہیں؟ کیا ہمارے ایسے بچے جو ہیں ان کی ایکسیس ہوتی ہے کہ انٹرپرینوریل سینٹرز تک یا انکوبیشن سینٹرز تک, کہ ان کو انڈیپینڈنٹ کیا جائے؟ تو اس سلسلے میں ایئر مارشل صاحب اگر آپ ہمارے ساتھ کچھ شیئر کریں کہ ہاؤ کین وی ریئلی میک اٹ سسٹینیبل امپلائبل ایجوکیشن.
جی دیکھیں, اٹس اے ویری امپورٹنٹ پوائنٹ, امپلائبلٹی, بیکاز واٹ ایور education that we are imparting to that child and whatever tarbiyat, that moral grooming and personality grooming that we are endeavoring at, basically is aimed towards making him a successful citizen of the country. A successful ka matlab hai ki he is also morally groomed, and then he is also able to support himself and support the family. Unfortunately, I mean again I continue to refer that we are talking about the OVCs now, but even in case of the normal children, the majority of those in Pakistan, this aspect is not really cared after. I mean, luckily, Al Khidmat is such a huge organization, and it has so many facets, so many departments working, that it is possible to link one department with other. For example, there is vocational centers also that are being run by Al Khidmat. So it is possible for Al Khidmat to use the children available over there, the children who are not able to perform well in studies, and put them in those vocational centers so they can learn some skill and subsequently are able to get employed, self-employment or somewhere else, but they're able to earn, become breadwinner for their families and all. Yeah, so I was saying that for an organization like Al Khidmat, where you have so many departments, and you can actually connect a link between these departments. So when a child is not able to cope up in the studies, and there would be so many children like that, you can put them into vocational centers. We also have a skill development center at Al Khidmat, which actually to the slightly older boys, they impart some skills like entrepreneurial skills, yeah, some other skills where they're able to employ themselves when they leave Al Khidmat and the folds of Al Khidmat subsequently. So this is important, but I don't know many of the organizations which are sponsoring the orphans would have such kind of linkages available. Certainly at the government level, I don't think we have any kind of system. Although Baitul Mal is supporting some of the children, they are sponsoring some of the orphans, but there is no connection. If a child is not able to cope up with the studies, where would he go? Where would he go? He will have to find a vocational center for himself or a skill development center for himself. But there is, interdepartmental linkages are not there in many of the organizations that we have, which are actually sponsoring the children.
Thank you very much for highlighting this issue. And although we heard that in 2021, there was a committee which was formed to develop EHSAS standards for private sector orphanages to bring all the orphanages at one page. But we still remain unaware of its implementation, whether it's in implementation phase or not. But if it does, I believe that is going to cater some of the issues that you have just highlighted, the disconnect between orphanages and also each orphanage or agosh or sweet home having their own systems. We believe that also needs to be standardized.
Yeah, the document that you're referring to was a monumental document in the sense that they were stakeholders from various organizations along with under the chair of Dr. Sania Nishtar, and they together put up a document which was very comprehensive. But I don't think that it is being implemented, or there is an oversight committee from the government side, from EHSAS program itself, to oversee what all is happening in the different organizations. Whether they are doing it or not, it is left to the discretion of the organization, really.
That's right. So we hope if they do, that really brings benefit to these children. And when we talk about the employability, like we started with the primary education, and then we moved on to the sustainability of the education, and then employability of their skills. And I believe there would be a good number of students who would be self-sustaining after they have received education. So do we have any such alumni system कि जिसमें इन बच्चों को जो independent हो गए हैं, those who have sustained themselves, they are introduced with the rest of the orphans and vulnerable children to share their success stories, and also to encourage more children to be independent. Do we have any such kind of alumni system?
At Al Khidmat, we do have. What is missing is that we do not have a central alumni system, but the various branches of Al Khidmat spread over the country, they are maintaining their own system, and the children continue to get connected even after they leave the Aghosh over there. And incidentally, on this Sunday, we have a alumni dinner at Atak being organized by Atak Aghosh. It is important. It is extremely important, and actually I'm pushing for a central system to have, so that we can know about the success stories. We can bring those children back, ask them about their their difficulties when they leave Aghosh. Till now, we are maintaining all this data at the central level, at the branches level. But I want to get it towards the center, so that we can have a big bird eye view over the whole situation which is happening. But certainly it is there. I'm not sure about other orphanages, but in Al Khidmat it is there, managed by the branches.
ये क्वेश्चन मैंने मिस फरजाना आपसे इसलिए नहीं पूछा था कि पाकिस्तान स्वीट होम में अभी हम एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी की बात नहीं कर रहे, अभी वो स्कूल लेवल पे ही वहाँ पे एजुकेशन है. एक कैडेट कॉलेज आप लोगों ने स्टार्ट किया है, एंड आई बिलीव दैट इज आल्सो अ स्टेप टुवर्ड्स दिस. लेकिन आपसे मेरे एक और सवाल है, चूंकि आप खुद प्रिंसिपल हैं और आप बच्चों के साथ डायरेक्ट इंटरेक्ट कर रही हैं, आपको बहुत अच्छी तरह से अंदाजा है कि उनके तालीम हासिल करने के दौरान किस तरह के मसाइल उनको सामना करने पड़ते हैं. تو ہمارے یہ بچے جو ہیں جو آرفنس ہیں, جو جن کو ہم ولنریبل چلڈرن کہہ رہے ہیں, کہ جو آرفنس تو نہیں ہے مگر ادروائز وہ اس طرح کی سچویشن میں ہے کہ ان کو نقصان پہنچنے کا احتمال زیادہ ہو سکتا ہے. تو ایسے بچوں کی اگر ہم کہیں کہ نفسیاتی اور شخصیاتی ضروریات اسی عمر کے باقی بچوں سے کس طرح مختلف ہوتی ہیں؟
جی بالکل, یہ اس طریقے سے ہے کہ جب ایک بچہ نارمل اپنے گھر سے ماں باپ کے درمیان میں سے آتا ہے تو اس کا کانفیڈینس جو ہوتا ہے نا وہ بہت زیادہ وہ اسٹرانگ ہوتا ہے. جبکہ ایسا بچہ جس کے گھر سے اس کو یہ پتا ہے کہ اس کا باپ جو ہے اس کو نظر نہیں آتا ہے اور ماں مختلف قسم کی کرائسس میں ہے, ان کے لیے وہ ساری چیزیں پوری کر نہیں پا رہی جو وہ اب اسکول میں دوسرے بچوں کے ساتھ دیکھتا ہے, اس وقت جو ہے نا وہ ایک کمپلیکس کا شکار ہوتا ہے. اور وہاں پہ یہ ہوتا ہے کہ پھر جب وہ کلاس میں بیٹھتا ہے تو باقی بچوں کی نسبت وہ اتنا مینٹلی ایکٹیو نہیں ہوتا, کیونکہ اس کے مائنڈ میں بہت سی دوسری چیزیں چل رہی ہوتی ہیں جس میں وہ ان چیزوں کو بھی دیکھ پا رہا ہوتا ہے جو دوسرے بچے لے کر آتے ہیں اور جو وہ افورڈ نہیں کر پاتا. ایک یہ سائیکولوجیکلی ہوتا ہے. اور دوسرا یہ ہوتا ہے کہ سم ٹائم یہ بچے کیونکہ ہرٹ ہوئے ہوتے ہیں سوسائٹی میں, ان کو بار بار ایک ہی چیز ریپیٹ کی جاتی ہے. یتیم کا لفظ ان لوگوں کے لیے اس طرح لگتا ہے جیسے وہ ان کو بہت زیادہ تکلیف دیتا ہے. تو ان بچوں کے لیے ضروری ہوتا ہے کہ ہمارے پاس جو ٹیچرز ہوں وہ ٹیچرز جو ہیں سائیکالوجی بھی جانتے ہوں بچوں کی. نارملی ہم موسٹلی, میں سویٹ ہوم کی بات نہیں کری, میں جنرل جو بچے عام اسکولوں میں بھی پڑھ رہے ہیں آرفنس, ان کے ساتھ یہ ہوتا ہے ٹیچر ایک ہی اسٹائل سے ساروں کو لے کر چلتی ہے. تو اس وقت ان بچوں یہ بچے اسٹڈی میں آہستہ آہستہ پیچھے ہونا شروع ہو جاتے ہیں, یا پھر یہ اپنے خوابوں کی دنیا میں رہتے ہیں جس سے انہیں نکالنا بہت ضروری ہوتا ہے. پاکستان سویٹ ہوم چونکہ یہ ہے کہ یہاں پہ تو تمام آرفنس ہیں ایک خاص قسم کے انوائرمنٹ میں, وہ بچے جو ہوتے ہیں نا وہ ایک دوسرے کے ساتھ شیئر کرتے ہیں اپنی تکلیفیں, وہ اپنی وہ چیزیں, وہ دل کے اندر چھوٹی چھوٹی چیزیں جو اس گھر سے نکلتے ہوئے, یعنی ایک طرف یہ ہوتا ہے نا کہ ایک تو باپ تو چلا گیا, اس کے بعد وہ ماں سے بھی الگ ہوئے ہیں جو کہ بہت ضروری تھا اس ٹائم ان کے پاس ہوتی. 4 سال 5 سال کا بچہ جب آتا ہے نا تو وہ اس پوائنٹ کے اوپر اکثر کھڑا رہتا ہے جہاں سے اس گھر کو چھوڑا ہوتا ہے. وہ اس دروازے پہ ہمیشہ کھڑا ہوتا ہے, وہ آگے آتا ہے, پڑھتا بھی ہے, سب کچھ ہے. لیکن میں یہاں جب بچوں میں یہ باتیں سنتی ہوں نا, ان کے ساتھ کنورسیشن کرتی ہوں, تو مجھے لگتا ہے کہ وہ بچے آج بھی نا اسی دروازے پر کھڑے ہوئے ہیں. آتے ہیں جب انہوں نے گھر جانا ہوتا ہے, کیونکہ موسٹلی 3-4 دفعہ جو ہے بچے مختلف چھٹیوں میں عید کے موقع پہ اپنے گھر کو بھی جاتے ہیں, تو اس وقت ان کی فیلنگ جو ہوتی ہے وہ انٹائرلی ڈفرینٹ ہوتی ہے. تو یہ سب چیزیں دیکھتے ہوئے ہمیں ایسے اساتذہ کی ضرورت ہے جو ڈیورنگ ایجوکیشن, اسپیشلی جو کہ آپ کا جونیئر سیکشن ہوتا ہے, اس میں بچے کی گرومنگ ہو چکی ہوتی ہے, اس کی پرسنالٹی نے جو بننا ہوتا ہے وہ بن چکی ہوتی ہے. تو وہاں پہ ایسے ہمیں ٹیچرز کی ضرورت ہوتی ہے جو ان چیزوں کو انڈرسٹینڈ کرے. وہ بچے اگر کبھی آپ کا وہ بچہ آپ کو رسپانس نہیں کر رہا تو وہ یہ جاننے کی کوشش کرے کہ آج اس کے ساتھ ایسا کیا معاملہ ہے کہ وہ آپ کو رپلائی نہیں کر رہا, رسپانس نہیں دے رہا. تو یہاں پہ ہمارے ہاں اس چیز کی بہت کمی ہے کہ ہمارے پاس ایسے اساتذہ کرام بہت کم ہے, بہت کم ہیں, لیکن بے انتہا کم ہے کہ جو یہ ہم کہہ سکیں کہ ان کے ہاتھ میں جب یہ بچے دیں گے تو واقعی ان کی کوئی گرومنگ ہو سکے گی. کیونکہ موسٹلی ہمارے یہاں ایجوکیشن کا ایک سلسلہ ہے وہ یہ اس میں پاس ہو جائے جو ٹیچر سمجھتا ہے کہ چلے جی میری ڈیوٹی پوری ہو گئی. ایسے میں بچوں کو ایموشنلی جو ان کی ایک گرومنگ ہوتی ہے نا وہ کہیں دور رہ جاتی ہے اور وہ آہستہ آہستہ کچھ نیگیٹیوز میں کنورٹ ہونا شروع ہو جاتی ہے. تو ہمیں پاکستان میں اسپیشلی ہمیں بہت زیادہ ضرورت ہے کہ ہم ایسے ٹریننگ سیشنز بنائیں جس میں ایسے بچوں کو کس طریقے سے ہینڈل کیا جائے کلاس میں, کیونکہ ٹیچر رول ماڈل ہوتا ہے بچے کے لیے. وہ جیسا بیہیو کرتا ہے آہستہ آہستہ بچہ جو ہے, آپ کو پتا ہے کہ جو ایک ہڈن کریکولم ہے اس کے اکارڈنگ بچہ پھر اس پرسنالٹی کی طرف آتا جاتا ہے جو وہ ٹیچر کے اندر دیکھ رہا ہوتا ہے. ٹیچر اگنور کرے گی تو آہستہ آہستہ وہ بھی سوسائٹی کی بہت ساری چیزوں کو اگنور کرنا شروع کر دے گا. اگر ٹیچر اس کے قریب جائے گی, اس کو انڈرسٹینڈ کرے گی, تو بچہ بھی باقی اور بہت ساری چیزوں کو انڈرسٹینڈ کرے گا. تو اس جگہ پہ ہمیں یہ بہت زیادہ ضرورت ہے کہ ہم ایسے بچوں کے لیے خاص طور پہ ٹیچرز کو ٹریننگ دیں, اور جو ٹیچرز ہائر کریں ایسے اسکولوں میں وہ یہ چیزیں انڈرسٹینڈ کرتی ہو کہ میں جن بچوں میں گئی ہوں, جس انوائرمنٹ میں گئی ہوں, وہاں مجھے ان بچوں کو کیسے لے کر چلنا ہوگا. کتابوں سے زیادہ ان بچوں کی ہمیں گرومنگ کی ضرورت ہوتی ہے. تو ہمیں گروم ٹیچر یہاں پہ چاہیے ہوگا. اس کے لیے اگر ہماری سوسائٹی आगे आती है, हमारे असातिज़ा आते हैं कि स्पेशल इन्हीं टीचर बच्चों के लिए काम करेंगे, तो नो डाउट कि हमारे बच्चे बहुत सारी ऐसी नेगेटिविटी से बाहर आ जाएंगे।
जी फरजाना साहिबा, आपने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा कि ये एक बड़ी यूनिक सिचुएशन है, बहुत डिफरेंट सिचुएशन होती है बच्चों की. ईच चाइल्ड इज डिफरेंट, लाइक वी सेड दैट डिपेंडिंग ऑन देयर इंडिविजुअल circumstances they have a very different orientation, psychological and personality orientation is different for each child. So the teachers who are handling these children, they must be trained enough to understand not only this the psychology of the deprivation and orphan, but also they should be competent enough to handle these individual differences, to look at the personality shortcomings, to address those shortcomings, to fill the gap with their love, with their affection, because mainly what is missing is the parental care which is missing. So it is that love and care which is missing, and we need teachers who really they take not only handling these children as a professional commitment, but also something which is more religious and more humane. But when we talk about all these things, I believe it's not very easy to hire such teachers, because even in our normal schools, we have to motivate our teachers to address individual differences, और उनमें इतने ज़्यादा differences नहीं होते, इसके बावजूद teachers के लिए it's a big challenge कि उनको कैसे address किया जाए. और जब हम OVCs की बात कर रहे हैं तो यहाँ पे तो टीचर की स्किल और भी ज्यादा शार्प होने की जरूरत है. Then we match it with what they get as their salary. I believe that would be one major limitation. Why? Because although being a charitable nation is one thing, but कितना charity आ रहा होगा orphanages को, हम जो हमें पता है, the studies tell us that it's mainly the individual charities that people focus on, और उनको पता ही नहीं होता, ये awareness ही नहीं होती कि हमने ऐसे इदारों में भी ज़कात या इस तरह की कितना रेशो है वो लोगों का जो देता होगा. And definitely that directly impacts on the human, the quality of the human resource that are these organizations have. और वहीं पे फिर हम teachers और उनकी क्वालिटी की भी बात कर रहे हैं. तो जो भी हमारे पास मौजूद है उसी को अगर हम बेहतर करने का सोचें, तो भी अगर आप हमारे इल्म में ये लेकर आए कि क्या हमारा कोई ऐसा ट्रेनिंग का सिस्टम है आगोश पे या पाकिस्तान स्वीट होम में या इस तरह के और बाकी जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, क्या वहाँ पे हमारे स्टाफ को ट्रेन करने का कोई स्ट्रीमलाइन सिस्टम मौजूद है, या ये गैप है जिसको फिल करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट को और हमारे लोगों को जो अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं उनको देखना चाहिए?
बिल्कुल, इसकी बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है, क्योंकि नॉर्मल लाइफ में आपको जैसे पहले बताया कि टीचर हैंडल कर लेती है बच्चों को, क्योंकि उनको उसके सेशन दिए जाते हैं, ट्रेनिंग दी जाती है, लिहाजा वो उसको अंडरस्टैंड करते हैं. लेकिन यहाँ पर जहाँ पे स्पेशल बच्चों को नीड होती है कि उनके साथ वही मोहब्बत की जाए जिसको वो छोड़ कर आए हैं, तो यहाँ पे जरूरत है हमें कि गवर्नमेंट और प्राइवेट सेक्टर दोनों जहाँ और सेशंस देते हैं, इन बच्चों के लिए भी टीचर ट्रेनिंग सेशंस होने चाहिए.
थैंक यू वेरी मच. जी एयर मार्शल साहब, आप भी कुछ कहना चाह रहे थे इसी सिलसिले में?
जी मैं I mean you have actually, it's very pertinent that the issue of training. Unfortunately, we do not have a very robust system of training, mostly because the teachers are not in our control, because the schools are located outside the premises of Aghosh, and we do not have any control over there. But in the centers where the schools are within the centers, it is possible to train the teacher to give her proper training which is required to deal with these children. But one point must be kept in mind. When we talk about the orphans which are there being sponsored in the orphanages, it is still a very, very small proportion of the total orphans that we have in Pakistan. I mean, you mentioned a figure of 4.7. This is, I think, a year or two old figure. Probably it would be touching the mark of 5 million now. Even and you gave a figure of 3,500 orphans which are there in the government-sponsored orphans. Add another maybe 10 to 15,000 in the privately managed orphans, and that is all. So it is only a very fraction figure of the total numbers of orphans that we have. What about those orphans? Who is taking care of them? Now, one good model which Al Khidmat is actually adopting to take care of those is by another program which is called Family Support Program. You must remember that sponsoring often is a very, it's a very tedious job, both in terms of the manpower, resources, and also in terms of the funds. You require a lot of money to sponsor even one child throughout the month, where you are providing for the lodging, boarding, schooling, etc. A better model would be where the orphan stays back at the home of his family or with mother, and you provide some money for the schooling and some for the sustenance, maybe a little amount. And with that amount, you are able to actually, if you compare the two models, you are doing that with 1/3 of the money that is required to sponsor a child in an orphanage. So it's a cheaper model and it's a more affordable model. What we do at Al Khidmat is that this program is called Family Support Program, and we have divided children into clusters. We have 80 such clusters spread all over the country. In one cluster, you have about from 100 to 250 orphans. In total, this makes around a figure of about 17 to 18,000. So with lesser amount of money, you are able to actually sponsor more orphans. Now, coming to the part of tarbiyat or training, here what you do is, because the orphans are not with you throughout, so you compensate that by holding regular meetings of that orphan in a hall, and subsequently you go over some of the important aspects of that training by having some sports competition, some debates, some artwork, etc. regularly throughout the month. So you are also contributing towards the building of personality. You are also giving money for the education. You are also taking care of the standard of the education. So this is one model probably which is more affordable, more adoptable, and I think more of the organization should come up and adopt this kind of model also, along with their signature orphanages that they have.
That's right. And I believe that would also address the issue of so many orphans unattended, who are, like we said, that they're not even registered and they do not have these facilities. So we can offer this family support model as a sort of compensatory model or services for these children. So both the things, like Marshal Saab said, that to address the need of the current number of orphans, we need to not only have more such organizations, more support from the government and from people, but at the same time, we need to look at the model that we are using currently to offer protection and education to these children. And here, this one was one solution. Here is now is the time that I sum up the points that we have discussed for our audience as well, and the recording would be available in a week's time. But before I sum up, if there is any other point that that our respective speakers want to make, or should I just move on to summing up?
Yeah, I just want to add to the last point that I was talking about. Actually, if you look at the literature in the West and the thinking in the West right now, they prefer the second model, where the child is actually staying with the family, whether it is with mother or the uncles or whatever, because probably in that setup he is not deprived of that social security which he is actually deprived of when he enters into an orphanage. Although you can provide him excellent care, but still that kind of that kind of care probably is not possible, where he is looked after all the emotional needs inside a home. So probably it's a very good model if you can actually have a setup where you can afford that model. And again, I will emphasize, at the cost of repetition, that if you have, like Al Khidmat, if you have your members penetration at the district level or even at a lesser level, probably then you are able to closely look at the family and decide, yes, this is a family that I can trust the child over there, and he will continue to live over there, and I'll continue to give for his, fund him for his fees and other liabilities.
Absolutely. So that element of trust is very important that you have highlighted, because then there are studies which also show that when we talk about the vulnerable children, most of these children, they get abused at the hand of some close family members, and so this element of trust is very important. To sum up all these points, it was very useful discussion, and honestly, I find it very difficult to sum up all the points, but yet I try to do as much as I can. First, that we need to understand that orphans and vulnerable children have to face a number of challenges coming from within, like Ms. Farzana Naeem also highlighted, from their family and from the schools, from the community and the society overall. We need to promote and encourage the community participation by changing the attitude of the people towards these children so that they're not stigmatized and they are empathized with. We need to understand the civic responsibility where the government is unable to reach due to the limitation of resources. That is where we need to play our role. And to play our role, the suggestions were the retired officers or the retired professionals who really are in position to support these children, then why not to, they should come forward and play their role in sustaining the education of these children and doing their bit in protection of these children. So it is our collective responsibility and socially as well as religiously to protect these children from being exploited socially, sexually, and economically. We need to help these children to integrate in the mainstream society, and that's very important. Another important point which was highlighted was that we need to look at the current model of orphans and orphan education and orphanages, and we need to supplement it with the family support model as well, where we can really identify the families that can be trusted and they can be given the responsibility, they can be supported to educate the child, they can be offered economic, the financial support or the counseling support, where the children at least would stay within the normal and natural family atmosphere. We also need to supplement the regular education with the specifically designed psychological elements or the psychological or counseling sessions to cover the effective life skills for these children, to enable them to be a part of the mainstream of the society, to address their psychological issues, to boost their confidence. And also, I believe, although it wasn't discussed, but perhaps we also need to have some sort of creativity centers, and we need to have more creative activities for these children so that they are more involved there, and they are very purposefully involved in art-related activities or so. Yet another point was that we need to, the administrators, wardens, the mentors, the facilitators, they need to undergo training to address different and unique needs of these children. And we need to establish such training centers. Although where the children are going to the community schools or the schools which are not linked with the orphanages, that is where the control of such administration will be very less. But these students, these children, when they are back at their orphanages, are, you know, we name them differently, but I'm only giving one generic name, orphanages. When they're back, the wardens and the mentors who are handling them, they should be trained enough to groom these children and to look at the personality or the character building of these students. So I believe I covered all these points. Yes, alumni point was very important, that we need to have a centralized alumni system where not only the alumni of one orphanage, but from all the orphanages. Maybe there could be a national alumni system for the orphanages and the vulnerable children. We could name it definitely differently, where they could share their success stories and be the role models for other students as well. Towards the end, I must thank the respected speakers for sparing the time to share the insider views with us, with the audience. And we believe that our today's discussion would prove helpful to motivate our people to contribute for the cause in their own capacities. And it would also help our policymakers in this domain to benefit from today's discussion, which highlighted the issues as well as the possible solutions regarding the education, protection, and support for orphans and vulnerable children in Pakistan. Thank you very much, dear audience, those who were with us, and thank you very much, honorable speakers. I really appreciate your time.